Alright, so it's time to do go-kart things. Can't put it off any longer. This is my motor from last year. It's a Kartworks motor. Worked really well for me, got me third place in the season. The last night of the last non-points race, it started going down. It was losing power. It's almost like I put the brakes on. Once you accelerated, took off. So this is the moment of truth. I got the side cover bolts out. I'm gonna pop the cover off, see what kind of mess is in there visually, and then pull the rod cap. I'm hoping that the rod just started going down and will zap some new crank rod and piston rings in it. Call it a day. If you hear the tapping in the background, it's raining and I'm in the trailer, so that's what it is. Yeah, I'm gonna put the phone down for a minute. We're gonna pop this cover off, have a look, and we'll get back. Okay, so I just want to go over some of the initials. I haven't actually pulled the cap yet, but I got the side cover off and I pulled the head off. Just gonna go over a couple things you gotta look at if you're tearing down your own go-kart motor. Keep in mind, I'm not no engine build expert, but I am a licensed car and truck mechanic, if that counts for anything. But anyways, quick look at the head. And we can see there's really nothing to be concerned about here. Some carbon, which is fairly normal, but I do have a nice white porcelain on the plug, so it's burning pretty good. There's no visual damage to the valves of any sort. And there's a slight bit of evidence of where it looks like the head gasket might have been starting to give up on me. And that's pretty common. I find that when my motors go down, this is what I'm going to find. Usually this and the scorn connecting rod. Now, you're probably already screaming about this. We're like, Harley, look at how dirty that is. And I won't lie, that is a pretty rough looking bit of oil in the corner there. Now, I do change my oil every time I'm on the track, like in between every night. And then if we have a night that runs long, I'll actually change it before a long feature. But regardless, clearly still dirt getting in there. My engine builder said most likely from intrusion past the air filter. But anyway, so a little bit of dirt in there. Our camshaft looks really good. There's no damage to the teeth, no wear. There's no unusual wear on the lobes. Nothing like that, so that's pretty good. Head gasket as well, same thing. Like I say, you can just barely see where it looks like it was thinking about giving up there. But I do have, this was my 2.5 seasons on this motor, and I haven't opened it other than to put a couple set of fresh valve springs in it. Anyways, so on top of that, we're gonna have a quick look at top piston. We'll crank it up for you. So same light coating of carbon, but nothing serious. And once again, just the slightest evidence that maybe the head gasket was about to say goodbye here. So it's something to watch out for. Even if your motor's together, keep an eye out for a stain on this side. It always seems to be this side. I've gone through 3 or 4 motors that have done this, and it always seems to be this side. So if you see an oily dirt stain here, chances are your head gasket's going down. Something to check for before you wash your motor and do your maintenance. So anyways, and then once we get inside the motor, we can see again there's quite a bit of evidence of you know, the oil's getting, there's some dirt in the bottom. So anyways, okay, so this is exactly what I expected to find when I opened this. So I'll get you right in there. You can see it was just starting to smear the rod. When I shut this thing down, and like I say, I did shut it down in the middle of a heat, it was starting to slow down a bit. We went to a caution. Motor felt fine because we weren't, you know, we were just puddling around the track. Felt fine. Got back into the green. As soon as I made a full lap at full speed, you could feel it. It was almost like somebody was hitting the brakes. And I knew from experience that this was what I was going to find in the motor. So instead of blowing her up and breaking the rod in half and chucking it through the side of the crankcase, I shut her down, took the loss, was what it was. But yeah, so you can see just where it's been smearing. Just started to. It's not even tore up yet, really. Same with the cap. You can see where it started to smear up. Now, like I say, the guy that built these engines, he's seen the first picture. Kim, the other half of my dynamic duo here, she races with me, and her motor went down the night before this motor went down. And I posted a picture of the cap online, and he says, wow, man, looks like you got some dirt in your oil. So anyways, thankfully, connecting rod and a crank aren't much money. The crank, you can see down in here, maybe doesn't look too bad. To be quite honest, you could probably get away with running it again, but I'm not going to. Not for the, I think it's like $40 or something like that for a new crank. The rods are like anywhere from like $17 to $25 kind of thing. So at the end of the day, what we're going to do to this thing is we're going to re-ring it. We're going to hone the cylinder because there's just a bit of a shiny spot on the bottom where the hone's starting to wear off. Put a new crank in it, new rod, new piston rings, a new head gasket, new side cover gasket, everything. Get it all cleaned up real well. We'll sonic clean the carburetor again to start the season off, and put it back together. And then, like I say, I got the identical motor to this, Cartworks motor. Also had 3 or 4 seasons on it, which is Kim's motor, and it went down the night before this one. So I've already got it tore apart in the shop, and I've checked it out. It looks literally identical to what this one did inside, maybe just a bit less even. But yeah, so that's where we're at. So things to consider when you're buying parts. The rods do have like a plus and a minus rod. So they're all stock, but you know, because of tolerances, some are slightly shorter, some are slightly longer. Same with the crank, you know, the stroke might be slightly less or slightly more, not because it's a performance part, but because of machining tolerances and a stock part. Whether it be only a couple thousands, it makes a difference when you're putting these back together about how your piston pop-up goes, so whether your piston's out or in the hole or level with the deck. And of course, you know, in, out, or evens going to cause different performance and or reliability issues. Like I said, I'm not an engine builder though, so I'm not going to get into details about my opinion on where it should be. But that's something to consider when you're buying it. Also consider what kind of head gasket your builder used, because there is a couple options. So you're going to want to use the same head gasket he used. And, you know, get this really clean. Get this, you know, we're going to empty this whole thing, get it down to the point where it looks like a brand new block again, order parts, put them in. So that's kind of where we're at. So we're at the order parts part of the game. But now that I have it open, I can see whether my piston was oversized or not, so that I can see whether it needs oversized rings. Usually somewhere in the top in this mess, it'll be stamped if it is oversized, plus or minus. If it's not, then it should just be a stock piston. So yeah, so you just match up what you had and put it back in. But like I say, the key to this whole experiment is if you feel your motor going down, if it feels like somebody's hitting the brakes hard on you, chances are this is what's about to happen. And I know from experience, you put a couple more laps at full tilt on this thing, what happens is this seizes to the crank pin and it snaps your rod in half, and then it turns it into a stabby, and it starts doing all sorts of things as you stop the go-kart. So currently, if I wanted to be super cheap, I could just put a rod in this thing, $20. Should throw a set of rings in, another $20. $40, you got the motor back together plus gaskets. If you blow your crank and your case, then your motor's junk. You got to start out with another $300 or $400 worth of parts, and that's just to get factory stuff. It's not built. So anyways, that's where we're at for today, and we'll get back at you when I have parts.